Right, morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to our lesson on explorers. We are going to be jumping straight back into where we left off. Okay, so welcome back. Well done on the great research you did. Sorry, about some of the world's famous explorers. Here are some examples of the great research there. You can see different people did research on Amerigo Vespucci and Ferdinand Magellan. We have Ferdinand Magellan. We have another Vespucci. We have Columbus. We had lots of Columbuses actually. And we had another Amerigo Vespucci there. Just these are some examples of the great research that was doing, and I even learned a few things from them. It's always nice when a teacher learns something from his students. Okay, we are going to crack on now. So, a lot of our explorers last time were eager to get to China, India, and what we now call Indonesia. Back then, they called it the Spice Islands. Well, the Spice Islands because of all the spices there. Why, though? Why did they want to go these places? They're far away and difficult to get to. Well, there's a two-word answer for that. I wonder if you could guess it. Is it gold? Is it silver? Is it spices? Is it money? Well, they're all one word. No. The two words are Marco Polo. So Marco Polo is one of the biggest reasons why people were so interested in visiting China and selling and buying things in China, India, and Indonesia. We can see here from his map where he traveled. He traveled overland to China, to all Southeast Asia, and back up into India and back home. So Marco Polo was an Italian explorer who traveled to China along the Silk Road. The journey took almost 4 years. Actually, it took a lot longer than that. He spent about over 20 years in China. He became really good friends with the, the person who was emperor of China at the time, who was actually the emperor of the Mongol Empire, who had recently taken over China and taken over Russia and taken over all the Arabian Empire. Yeah, so you can imagine, this was the um, largest continuous empire in the world, and Marco Polo had the good fortune of being good friends with the emperor, so he got treated very, very well on his travels. Um, so yeah, when he returned to Italy, he would write a book called The Travels of Marco Polo, and it would become very, very famous. So let's take a look. Um, he described the cities that were far wealthier than those back in Europe, which people in Europe found very, very difficult to believe because Marco Polo came from Venice in Italy, which at the time was considered the wealthiest city in Europe. And maybe the people of Genoa, which was another nearby city in Italy, might disagree with that, but certainly it was one of the richest cities in Europe. So for Marco Polo to be blown away by these places and describing all the gold, the silk, the spices that existed there was shocking to Europeans. He wrote about silk and gold from China. He also wrote about coal and compass and different inventions that they had invented, and spices and jewels from India. And naturally enough, when European merchants heard about all this, they'd been trading with China for a long time, but hearing the immense wealth in person from Marco Polo's stories, they got dollar signs in their eyes. They want they wanted to get there and make some money off it. And the funny thing about it is, people didn't believe Marco Polo. They said, "Oh, there can't be places wealthier than Europe. Europe is the wealthiest place in the world." And Marco Polo responded to them, "I didn't write half of what I saw. I knew I would not be believed." So you can imagine Marco Polo was traveling with the emperor, and he would have been living in vast palaces. And at the time, it was certainly the most powerful empire on earth. So yeah, certainly wanting people made people want to travel there, and yeah. The Journeys of Marco Polo became a best-selling book. His adventures inspired many explorers to find ways to get to the cities of silk and gold he described. He was a particularly big inspiration for Christopher Columbus, and we know that he meant that Christopher Columbus mentioned him lots of times in his logbook. Right, that is we why the explorers of our last lesson were so interested in getting to the east, getting to China, getting to Indonesia, getting to India. Let's take a look at where we left off. So back to where we left off. When we stopped our last lesson, the year was 1521, and Magellan had sailed around the world. And as Magellan says there, well, sort of, he didn't quite make it. And our map looked like this. So we had discovered or mapped most of the world. Now the maps mightn't have been the highest quality because it's hard to go in and out around countries, but still, it gave us a good idea of um, where each country was. Let's carry on, shall we? So today we are going to move on and talk about Abel Tasman. The Dutch Abel Tasman discovered New Zealand, so over here, and Fiji is just off the map here, but it's a very small island in the middle of the Pacific. He sailed around Australia without realizing it was there, so he was sailing all around this area, but didn't see the giant continent there with koala bears and kangaroos. And nowadays, Tasmania, which is a large island off the coast of Australia, is named after him. And that's where we get the Tasmanian Devils um, from. If anyone knows their Looney Tunes of Taz. Okay, our next explorer is James Cook. As you can see, James Cook did a lot of exploration in the Pacific. You can see he always left from England and he made his way down. Sometimes he went by South America past Cape Horn, where the way Magellan did, and sometimes he went around Africa like Vasco da Gama did. You can see he sailed around Australia, mapping the coast as he went. He sailed all around looking for different paths. He went on 3 journeys, first on the Endeavour, second on the Resolution, and third on the Resolution again. And you could see how long the journeys were. So he did lots of stopping along the way, meeting new people. Right. Um, so yeah, you can see that's a close up there of all his journeys. But if you look at his last journey, the Resolution, you might notice, his journey ends in Hawaii. Did he retire, spending the rest of his life eating pineapples on the beach? What year did he die again? 1779. 1779. Uh-oh. Um, oh, he got Magellaned, didn't he? By Magellan, I hope we know what I mean there. Yes, so Cook's third expedition to the Pacific would be his last. When he stopped to resupply in Hawaii, he was killed by the natives, so the people who lived there. He likely got into an argument, and that got him killed. Just like Magellan, his crew sailed home without him. I suppose James Cook didn't have the advantage of seeing the Samoan rugby team and things like that playing. They didn't know he maybe didn't know or realize how strong and powerful they were. So I suppose we have that advantage over him. But nonetheless, James Cook did a lot of exploring, but once again, he underestimated the people that he was traveling or that he was meeting on the way, and it cost him his life. Right, but on a lighter note, we have now fully explored the world. Oh, Antarctica, right. Um, oh, and then at the bottom of the world, then there's Antarctica. And now we're going to talk about Roald Amundsen. So Amundsen was a Norwegian polar explorer. He was the first person to reach the South Pole in 1911. So essentially, it was a race between Amundsen and his crew from Norway and the crew from Robert Scott, who we know Tom Crean was part of. Um, So Amundsen chose a shorter, flatter path across Antarctica, and with the help of sleds, they managed to arrive there 5 weeks ahead of Scott. They left their home countries at a similar time, around October time, and Amundsen got there in December, and uh, Scott arrived a little bit later. Unfortunately for Scott, he would die on his way back, and Amundsen managed to get home. Um, okay, so which of these explorers would you like to learn more about? So I would ask you again to record 3 facts about one of the explorers below. Again, like some people did last time, you feel free to do more than 3. Um, World Book Online is another great place to do it. It's nice and short, it gives you lots of information, but in the shortest possible way. Of course, you can use other websites as well if you need to. Here are the links to them, and I will link them in the seesaw as well. Okay, guys, Shin, that is our explorers. We have now fully explored the world. I hope you enjoyed this journey with all our explorers, and I'm looking forward to see your research again. Slán, I say Slán.